Forget for a moment everything you were taught to believe about what a man should do in love, family, and relationships. Because beneath the noise of social media, beneath the debates about dating apps and gender wars, something deeper is happening. It's quiet, it's steady, and it's global. In big cities and small villages, in rich countries and struggling economies, across cultures that barely share a language, you can see the same pattern emerging. Men are stepping back from traditional relationship scripts and stepping inward into themselves. Not into laziness, not into apathy, into something most men were never given permission to pursue: personal mastery, emotional sovereignty. A life built around their own values, not just their obligations. This isn't some niche Western trend. It's not just a few angry corners of the internet. It's a worldwide shift in how men see themselves, their time, and their role in the world. And the most interesting part, most people still have no idea what they're actually looking at. 1. The story everyone tells versus the story. Men are actually living from the outside. A lot of commentators describe this shift with the same tired labels. Commitment crisis. Men are afraid to grow up. Family breakdown. Loneliness epidemic. But if you listen to the men themselves, the story sounds very different. They're not saying, "I hate women. I don't want love. I refuse responsibility." They're saying something far more serious. "I refuse to live a life that erases me. I won't destroy my mental health to uphold roles that no longer make sense. I would rather be alone than be used." They're not rejecting love. They're rejecting a deal that feels increasingly one-sided. They're not running from responsibility. They're taking on a heavier one, to build a life that is honest, sustainable, and aligned with their own values, not just with social expectations. For decades, men were told, be a provider, be a protector, be reliable, be strong, and in return, you'll earn respect, love, and a stable family. A lot of men did exactly that, and many of them watched. Relationships dissolve in courts that treated them like disposable wallets. Children pulled away from them, years of sacrifice dismissed as bare minimum. Their mental and physical health deteriorate under constant pressure. So now, a growing number of men are asking, if the old deal is broken, why am I still playing by the old rules? That question is not coming from immaturity, it's coming from experience. 2. A pattern across continents, different cultures, same decision. If this were just a Western phenomenon, you could say it's cultural, political, a temporary phase, but look closely. The pattern is too consistent to write off. Asia. Duty versus reality. In many Asian countries, men grew up under heavy expectations. Marry early. Provide financially, regardless of cost. Support parents, wife, and children. Work long hours, complain rarely. For a long time, a man's worth was measured almost entirely by how much he could endure. Now, a growing number of men are choosing something else. Smaller apartments over big, stressful households, flexible work over soul-crushing hours, simpler lives over status-driven spending. Yes, people talk about living costs and work culture. Those are real. But beneath that is a deeper realization. If I carry all the financial and emotional weight and still don't receive loyalty, respect, or shared responsibility, what exactly am I signing up for? They're not refusing to care. They're refusing to be used. Europe. Autonomy versus obligation. In Europe, independence has been praised for decades. Freedom of choice, individual rights, personal expression. But now you see men taking that further, questioning whether they should sign contracts, legal and emotional, that expose them to enormous risk with very little security. Watching how divorce courts treat fathers and husbands. Noticing how modern dating often feels like short-term entertainment, not long-term partnership. They're not swearing off connection. They're saying, I'll connect when I can do it without losing myself, my savings, and my sanity. Rather than chasing relationships out of fear of being alone, they're choosing solitude over arrangements that feel structurally stacked against them. Latin America, tradition versus self-respect. In much of Latin America, family is everything. Warmth, closeness, emotional intensity. Men traditionally carried enormous responsibility, financially supporting extended families, fulfilling macho expectations, anchoring everyone around them. Now you're seeing men setting boundaries that would have been unthinkable a generation ago, delaying marriage or opting out if partnership means constant drama without stability, pouring energy into their bodies, careers, businesses, and education, not because they suddenly hate family, but because if I destroy myself to keep everyone else afloat, no one wins. Urbanization and the internet have shown these men something their fathers never saw clearly. You can be a man of value without letting your life be consumed by everyone else's demands. The common thread: different cultures, different languages, different histories, same pattern. Men are no longer entering relationships primarily to satisfy family, satisfy society, avoid shame, escape loneliness. They're asking a new question: does this relationship add to my life or drain it? And if the answer is drain, they walk, not out of hatred, out of discernment. 3. The rise of the self-sufficient man. At the centre of this shift stands a particular type of man. He's not loud about it, he's not campaigning, he's not making a scene, he is quietly rebuilding himself from the inside out. He is not anti-relationship, he is anti-self-betrayal. For most of history, a man's identity was built around 3 roles: provider, protector, partner. If he fulfilled these, he was a good man. Whether he was fulfilled, respected, or emotionally healthy was almost irrelevant. This new man still respects those roles. He just doesn't let them define him. He starts asking, what do I actually want? What kind of work matters to me? What kind of man am I when no one is watching? If I stripped away every expectation, how would I live? That questioning changes everything. He reclaims his time. Instead of giving every spare hour to relationships that demand endless emotional labour, he builds skills, studies his craft, trains his body, reads, learns, thinks, starts projects that matter to him. Work stops being a way to impress others. It becomes a way to sharpen himself. He takes ownership of his money. He stops spending to prove his worth. No more chasing status symbols just to look successful. No more draining his bank account to keep up an image. No more financing lifestyles that leave him stressed and resentful. Money becomes a tool to buy freedom, reduce dependence, build options. He wants to be able to walk away from a job, from a place, from a relationship without being financially trapped. He stabilizes his mind and body. He starts to see clearly no relationship can compensate for a wrecked nervous system. So he sleeps better, trains regularly, eats with intention, reduces chaos where he cannot, because it's a trend, because he knows, if I burn out, nobody wins. Not me, not a partner, not a family. He redefines belonging. Instead of assuming that the only meaningful bond in life must be romantic, he builds strong male friendships, joins communities of practice, gym, business groups, creative spaces, finds mentors and peers who sharpen him. His emotional needs are no longer jammed into one romantic container. The result? He's less desperate, less reactive, less willing to accept bad treatment just to not be alone. 4. Masculinity 2.0, from sacrifice to alignment. As more men step into this inner rebuild, something bigger shifts: the definition of masculinity itself. Old masculinity was mainly measured by how much you provide, how much you endure, how much you carry for everyone else. If you destroyed yourself doing it, that was noble. The emerging version is different. Masculinity becomes less about I suffer, therefore I'm a man, and more about I live in alignment with my values, therefore I'm a man. That includes discipline, courage, integrity, boundary setting, purpose-driven action. But it also includes something older models often lacked: self-respect, emotional literacy, strategic withdrawal from toxic situations. This doesn't make men weaker, it makes them harder to exploit. The societal shockwave. When large, numbers of men stop acting like an unlimited resource. Society feels it. Birth rates decline. Marriage ages rise, or marriage is skipped entirely. Divorce loses some of its leverage if men won't sign up in the first place. Traditional gender roles feel less given and more negotiable institutions that quietly depended on men sacrificing without question. Legal systems, family structures, even certain industries start to strain. Some call this a crisis. From another angle, it looks like a correction. For decades, the assumption was men will always show up, no matter how lopsided the deal becomes. Now a different message is emerging. Men will show up for what is fair, balanced, and aligned, not for anything and everything. The criticism. These men are avoidant, weak, or bitter. Any movement like this attracts backlash. That's expected. The usual accusations appear quickly. They're scared of commitment. They're emotionally avoidant. They're selfish and immature. They're just hurt and blaming everyone else. Sometimes, sure, that's true for some individuals. Humans are messy. But if you actually look at what many of these men are doing, the stereotypes fall apart. They're not sitting in dark rooms playing victim, refusing all responsibility, hiding from life. They are working harder on themselves than ever, getting in shape, building businesses, careers, or skills, reading, learning, growing, setting higher standards for how they are treated. Their independence isn't, I don't care about anyone. It's, I refuse to abandon myself for anyone. That's a very different thing. 6. What does connection look like for a man who doesn't need it? Here's the crucial question. If a man no longer needs a relationship to feel worthy, what does connection become? It stops being a cure for loneliness, a badge of normalcy, a social requirement. It becomes an optional addition to a life that already has structure, purpose, and meaning. That changes how he chooses. He no longer asks, will this relationship prove that I'm enough? He asks, does this relationship support the man I'm becoming? If the answer is no, he doesn't explode. He doesn't beg. He doesn't stay just to avoid being single. He walks, not dramatically, not to prove a point, just as a natural extension of his standards. His social world evolves. Friendships deepen because he's not using them as stopgaps. Professional and creative communities become richer because he's fully present. Conversations shift from complaining about relationships to building skills, sharing ideas, and pushing each other forward. He has connection, just not chaos. And when he does choose intimacy, it's because it fits his life, it respects his boundaries, it aligns with his values, not because he's running from emptiness. 7. The bigger picture, technology, global, awareness, and shared patterns. This entire shift is amplified by something unique to our time. Global connectivity, instant information, visible patterns. Men in completely different cultures can now watch each other's experiences in real time, compare notes on dating, marriage, divorce, fatherhood, see how often the same frustrations repeat in different forms. That does something powerful. It tells a man, you're not crazy, you're not alone, it's not just you. Once he realizes that, he stops thinking, I'm failing because I can't make these systems work, and starts thinking, maybe the system is misaligned with what I actually want from life. So he does something previous generations rarely did. He opts out, not of life, of roles that feel incompatible with his well-being. And because he can find community, conversation, and support outside of traditional structures, he no longer feels trapped. 8. The future. What do relationships look like in this new reality? We're heading toward a simple but uncomfortable truth. If men are no longer driven by pressure, shame, or fear of being alone, the only relationships that will survive are the ones that genuinely work. That means balance instead of dependence, mutual respect, instead of silent sacrifice, shared purpose instead of one-sided obligation, emotional steadiness instead of constant drama. Partnerships will have to justify their cost, not in a cold, transactional way, but in a very real one. Does this connection help both people grow? Does it bring more peace or more chaos? Does it respect each person's individuality? Does it add to already meaningful lives, or just patch over insecurities? In that world, love doesn't disappear. It matures. It becomes less. I need you, or I'm nothing. And more. I am whole. You are whole. We choose each other, freely and with boundaries. 9. Is this evolution or just a phase? So we arrive at the question that sits underneath all of this. Is this a temporary reaction, or the next stage of masculinity? Nobody knows for certain yet. History is easier to read in hindsight, but here's what we can say. Men who choose autonomy intentionally tend to report more clarity, less stress, and greater emotional stability. They are building lives with structure and direction, not waiting around for someone to rescue them. When they do choose connection, they often bring more maturity and steadiness to the table, not less. That doesn't look like collapse, it looks like correction. For the first time, large numbers of men are treating solitude as strength, not shame. Standards as non-negotiable, not optional. Inner peace as a baseline, not a luxury. They haven't turned against love. They've turned against being lost inside it. 10. Where this leaves you. If you're a man listening to this, the point is not swear off relationships forever. The point is stop surrendering your identity to them. Stop living as if your worth depends on being chosen. Stop sacrificing your health, purpose, and sanity just to fit a script you never wrote. This global shift isn't asking you to hate anyone. It's asking you to know yourself. Build a body you respect, a mind you can trust, a mission you believe in, a financial base that gives you options, a community that sharpens you. Then from that place, decide what connection means for you. If a relationship fits that life, good. If it doesn't, have the strength to walk alone, not as a victim, not as a rebel, as a man who finally understands that his life is not a tool for everyone else's comfort, is a responsibility, is a journey, and it belongs to him first. Is this the final form of masculinity? Probably not. Every era evolves. But one thing is clear, men who anchor themselves in purpose, peace and autonomy will always be in position to choose, rather than beg, perform or plead. And that alone changes everything.